Hello everyone, hopefully you're having a wonderful time today. Have you ever wondered just how far your favorite swordsman in fiction will get in the lands between? If they could take down the Elden Beast or get cut down by a soldier of Godric? So that's just what we're going to find out today. I credit this concept to Ruger Rabbit, so go check out his channel. Not now, you degenerates, after this video. Well, you clicked the video, so sit down and
do it. Oh, go girlfriend, I'm your mother.
Well, before we can get into each and every one of these swordsmen, first I'm going to have to tell you about what they're going to have to survive. So what can I say about Elden Ring and the lands between, other than it's got beautiful scenery, rolling hills, high vistas, and great plateaus? For as far as the eye can see. Oh, and did I forget death? Complete with poison swamps, rotten swamps, volcanoes, and other versions of, well, death. And these are just the environmental hazards that you'll have to deal with in the lands between. Not to mention everything from the pigs to the gods themselves want to smite you. And smite you they will. The power that our survivors is going to have to contend with is anything from a dude with a sword to people who literally hold back the stars. Mollusks that spit poison, and women who have spells that can melt your face off. Well, with some of the basics knocked out, let's go ahead and get into some of the more detailed things that these swordsmen are going to have to deal with. Each area of the game has its own faction, essentially, and it's like warring faction stuff, so some basic bullshit. You've got the soldiers that use just basic soldier stuff, you've got some that use magic, you've got some that use freaking faith. And the further you progress into the game, just like every other game, they're going to hit you harder. But that's just talking basic gameplay mechanics, and let's face it, that's not what we're doing here. We're just seeing if these assholes can survive. The big hitters that we're going to have to really worry about are the Demigods and the main legacy dungeon bosses. What can they do? Well, I'm glad you asked. Godric can create flame tornadoes, normal tornadoes, shoot fire at you off of a dragon's mouth, crush the ground around him, do giant craters, and attack about 17 times in a second. Remember that face melting magic I mentioned earlier? Well, that's Renala's whole thing. Margit/Morgott thinks he's a acrobatic ballerina dancer of some sort who likes to run you through and use blood magic. Mog likes to cosplay as Sephiroth and activate his one-winged angel form, except for he's got two wings and can make you bleed from 1.5 miles away. Radon literally has the power to hold the stars back while mentally insane, and when you get him down to about half his health, has the ability to ride in on a giant-ass meteor. But let's face it, that's a gameplay mechanic, and who's to stop him from just fucking meteoring you all over the place and turning you into a fine paste? Despite it being called the fire giant actually would cause an avalanche, smack you in the face with this giant frying pan, and then, well, have fun eating you afterwards. And if you manage to beat him down enough, he decides to rip off a leg and summon an outer god inside of himself so he can cast even more powerful fire spells. One of the hardest things that a lot of the people on this list is going to have to deal with is the fact that Malekith has destined death. Basically true death built straight into his sword. And I do not know how they're going to be able to survive just immediate death. How do you survive immediate death? Like, it's fucking death. Not to mention every land you go into is riddled with dragons. There's hidden dragon bosses in like 3 or 4 different places that'll just flame your ass just for the fun of it. And if you manage to somehow make it through all of that, you're not even to the heavy hitters yet. You've got people like Malenia, Blade of Mikola, who has never known defeat, the Scarlet Rock Goddess herself. Miss, I can attack 7,300 times in a row and turn you into some fucking Shushimi kind of shit. And then in phase 2, I turn into a fountain of scarlet rot, which literally rots you from the inside worse than any poison in the games that these guys are going to have to survive coming from. You thought Godric's pound in the ground was hard? Well, freaking Godfrey makes the entire arena, the entire tree that he is standing on, shake when he stomps the ground. He throws you in the air and turns you into his own personal WWE toy. Then when you finally get to the damn tree that you're trying to enter the whole time, and you get inside, you think you're done with the lands between, you think you come up to America. No, you fight her male self. I'm not gonna make like a transgender joke here or anything, but that woman-man thing, child, whatever it is, beat your ass with a big-ass hammer, can cause holy explosions and rock his entire arena. When you finally knock him out of place, he turns into a giant snake dragon monster that can shoot holy nukes at you just to fuck with you. And that would be everything if they hadn't just added DLC to the game not too long ago. The DLC is added a dude who has a spear, who has a very bad Salma Hayek snake fetish, who decides to, you know, rip out his eye halfway through the fight and start transforming into a bigger snake to whoop your ass also. Speaking of snakes, I forgot Rykard in the base game, who lives in a volcano and can basically warp time and reality around himself to make the inside of his volcano disappear so that he can cast skull bombs at you. What I'm saying is the opponents that the swordsmen are going to have to face in this game are fucking nuts. Renala's sister is not just a magic caster, but she's also a dual swordsman wielder who uses faith with a fire sword and magic with 2 giant balls that, well, she puts on your face just like your uncle used to. They stuffed the entire DLC with mini bosses. I mean, for fuck's sake, you fight Wolverine and a goddamn teleporting Yoda. There's a man who rides a hog around who is so in love with Radahn that he decided to practice his same kind of gravity magic just so he can teabag you into a twister. Some of the first basic enemies you run into can destroy cathedrals, so the power level in this game is a bit ridiculous when it comes to what they're going to have to survive. And now for what is considered the biggest powerhouse in the game. You remember Mog from earlier? Yeah, that one? You remember Radahn? Yeah. Well, their brother decided to fuse one's body with the other one's soul to create the ultimate consort. And well, that led to Radahn being reborn in a slightly smaller body with all of the holy and magical power of a freaking nuclear bomb going off every time he decides to descend from the heavens, while of course being ridden piggyback style by his younger woman-looking like brother, Nicola. Pedo jokes ensue. And that's it. That's everything, I think. Let me go through my notes real quick. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else in the lands between other than, oh yeah, there's still all those damn dragons, but I'm pretty sure at least one guy on our list is going to enjoy that. Oh, and I forgot Father McTouchme's favorite freaking boss, you know, the mother of all fingers, go figure. And that one basically is a cosmic entity that can, you know, cast straight up light magic at you, jump on you, finger you to death, you know, all the good times. So, and there, that's it. That's everything. So let's go ahead and move on to our first contestant in the lands between, and that would be Mr. Geralt of Rivia. So what can I say about Geralt of Rivia? Well, he's a witcher, and this Adonis of a man carries 3 swords on him. One's for humans, one's for monsters, and one's for the ladies. That's right, depending on how you play the game, you can play Geralt as the biggest man whore that has existed since Commander Shepard. Not only does he got a thing for the ladies, but he also has a thing for good drink and hallucinogenic drugs of some sort, like when he talks to his horses. But at least with most of the jokes aside, Geralt is a witcher, and not only did he go through the ceremony to become a witcher once, he did it twice, making him probably twice the witcher of all the other witchers. He's got both offensive and defensive spells, which make him very formidable in his own world. Plenty of things that go boom in the forms of bombs, glitter bombs, cluster bombs, poison bombs, and all that good stuff. Plus he has plenty of potions to give him those power-ups and regenerating abilities that you don't get very often in other games. However, for all of his power, grandeur, drugs, and booze, this man still has plenty of weaknesses. Yes, he may have bombs and potions, decoctations, and all of that to go along with his power-ups. However, all of these items are limited. If he drinks too many potions, he builds up toxicity and starts poisoning himself to death, much like he would in the Lake of Rot or in any poison swamp in the lands between. Now, to be serious for a moment, yes, in the game, you can technically sleep with anything with a pulse and the proper set of anatomy. However, Geralt is in love with Yennefer, and there's a whole thing with that in the backstory and all that stuff. I figured I'd touch on that here so that I don't get bombed with a bunch of hate about, you know, he's actually not a man whore. Let's face it, most people play him to sleep with everything with a pulse. The Johnny Sins of Witchers lives by a code of neutrality, which means usually he will only do jobs if he gets paid to do them. However, when it comes to those he loves, like his adopted daughter Ciri, or any of the women in his life that manage to steer him into other directions, he does tend to go out of his way to save them or help them in any way possible when asked. But will this hurt or help Geralt in the lands between? Well, let's look into how far I think he's going to make it. The White Wolf comes with many abilities, most of which make him way more powerful than any starting Tarnished. Out of the gate, he is smoking his way through. He's going to probably take out the tree sentinel sitting outside of the Church of Ella. He would quickly realize he's not in the lands that he knows anymore, and he might even pick up Vare's questline. I could see his Witcher senses giving him the ability to see the sights of grace, which would give him access to Malenia, who is a beautiful woman who would offer him a reward just to take her to the capital city. He's never been there, he has no idea what the troubles getting there would be, so he would definitely accept, the reward being a secondary roach for his time in this world. With his ability to take on griffins, dragons, and vampires in his own universe, I don't see him having much of a problem going through the likes of Godric the Grafted, even beating up on Renala a little bit. If he chose to look around the lands between, he would easily find people like Selena, another decently hot woman in the lands between that I can see him actually getting entangled with from time to time. After beating Godric, Malenia would whisk him away to Round Table Hold, where he might get caught up in Gideon's machinations. Honestly, I can see him taking Gideon's jobs, going around and exploring, looking for where the demigods are, but I don't think he would do this until after he got Malenia to the capital. Mind you, Malenia getting to the capital, she doesn't actually ask you to follow her up to Margit. Margit, I would say, is beyond Geralt's powers. However, Geralt could easily survive in the lands between. He is a survivor character after all. Give it enough prep time, Geralt's sort of like a Batman-like character. He can almost defeat anything with said prep time. With that being said, going on Gideon's quest to find the demigods, again, he's only tasked with finding the demigods. He would easily go back and talk to his pal Vare, who he's been doing missions for slightly on the side, and he'd find where Mog is, and the giant palace surrounded by blood. Another fun thing about him, we know from the DLC that a lot of people in the lands between are susceptible to mind control. Thanks, Mikola. And due to this, his art ability would be on full force. The world would be his oyster, and he would be able to pretty easily, take over a small area, maybe Castle Height, make it his own place, and just enjoy his time as a Witcher, doing missions for Gideon, Selena. I can easily see him and Selena hooking up, or maybe in Round Table Hold, he ends up, getting with Rodrika, or maybe even, Nefeli Luge, depending on what flavor of the day he wants. Again, like I said, the Johnny Sins Witcher. However, with all that being said, if Geralt could somehow access the powers in the land between and use runes to power himself up and get great runes from like Godric or any of the other demigods, these power-ups might give him enough to get over the edge on some of the other powers in the land between. Geralt being the kind of person who's able to switch armor and weapons on the fly in his own series, I don't see him not just being like, oh, that looks like it'll protect me more, I'll put that on. And then, oh, that looks like it's going to hit harder, I'll use that instead. I can see Geralt start picking up other long swords, which in the lands between can be powered up. If this is the case, if Geralt can get the power-ups using runes and great runes from the base game and whatnot, I can see Geralt getting further. However, if we're just using baseline Geralt, nah. Limgrave, Weeping Peninsula, maybe going into Renala's realm with Selena's questline. I can see him easily going through these places, but once you start getting up to, say, after the capital or Caelid, he really doesn't have the power. His Quinn shield can only protect him from so much, his Yard is only a bit of a trap, and his Igni is weaker than any of the fire-based spells in the lands between already. Even his Ard with his mind control abilities is nothing compared to what Mikola was putting out, and people with strong enough wills were able to break free of Mikola. Not very many, but a few. But with that being said, we've gone through most of what Geralt can do. So, who do we have next on our chopping block? Ah, that's right, everyone's favorite emo, always reading poetry, bitch boy of a swordsman. Just kidding, you guys. Virgil from Devil May Cry. So what can we say about the lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars here? Well, not only does he steal his color scheme from one of your favorite blue hedgehogs, but he's also within his temptation to go faster than any swordsman that you know. That's right, he is fast as fuck, boy. Virgil will have you asking what's your name again as he beats you down with his sword skills faster than Travis Barker plays the drums. But as much as Virgil loves his sword, he also doesn't conform to just one style of fighting. He'll start a fist fight in the parking lot with those sweet old Beowulfs that he's got going with him. So what, you might be saying? He's got a little bit of speed, he's got a little bit of power, but you know, what does that really do for him? Is that all he's got? And I say hell no. This man is able to enter his ultimate cringe lord, edge lord form in the devil triggers, which increases his speed and power by a large amount. This man may be half demon, but in this form he becomes a true demon hunter and proves that he is not ready to die. With that being said though, most of this guy's life has been in the search of more and more power. At one point this search for power actually led to him being brainwashed by the demon king Mundus. Eventually he got better though. But while in this form, he sported a slick black set of armor and some really cool power designs. This massive lust for power was never truly taken out of his character, but it was sidelined once he found out that he had a son that, you know, he ripped his arm off at one point and then proceeded to stab himself in the chest with. Because due to freaky deaky Dutch demon magic, his son's arm was actually his sword. At this point, I might as well go into detail about Virgil's two forms. After he stabs himself with this sword, it splits him into his demon form and his human form. His demon form, Urizen, looks like a fusion of a Resident Evil boss and that one website that you were told to stay away from by your mom that you heard about on that Reddit channel. You know, the one I'm talking about with all the creepy tentacles? Yeah, that one. And while his human form looks like it belongs to neither Godsmack or Good Charlotte. But sorry to disappoint you guys, I am not counting either one of these forms as Virgil. They have diametrically opposed personalities, they're not quite the same person. Yes, each of them have several of the things that make Virgil Virgil. However, this is a classic sense of if you split one being into two, they are not the same person. So, neither one of these forms count for Virgil. With that being said, how far would Virgil make it in the lands between? Well, let's look. His outstanding strength and speed put him far ahead anything that the Tarnished can do, especially in the beginning of the game. He's easily going to smoke through Godric. He's easily going to smoke through Renala. Who can he easily smoke through? It would probably be easier for us to talk about. So let's talk about the challenges that he'll actually have to come up against. Now, before the events of the new game, I would have said that Virgil would have made it maybe to Malenia. Her regeneration ability isn't powered by demon power like Virgil's ability is. By the way, when Virgil runs low in demonic energy, he loses the ability to activate his sword, heal, and all that good stuff. However, after the events of Devil May Cry 5, I would say he's powerful enough and fast enough to put Our Lady down in a fair fight at the very least. He's already fought massive creatures, so I don't think that the Elden Beast will be much of a problem for him either. He'll quickly turn him into a giant slug dish that's on the ground. The one true problem I see Virgil having in this game doesn't come from the base game at all. It comes from Radahn, or in fact true consort Radahn from the DLC. Now mind you, just up until the other day I thought that this was going to be just a cakewalk for Virgil. He was going to come in, basically sprint through everything, cut everything down, murder everyone, and just be on his way. If he was power hungry still like he was before the events of Devil May Cry 5, then he would be acquiring whatever trinkets and power-ups he can get in the lands between. However, I got to thinking, and when it came to General Radahn, Consort General Radahn to be exact, one of Virgil's only true weaknesses from his own franchise kicks in. Because Radahn, being piggybacked by his brother, can mind control you. And Virgil's been known to be mind controlled before in such a way that he wasn't freed until the guy who mind controlled him was killed. With how hard and fast Radahn actually attacks, I don't see it being to the point where Virgil is too quick to be touched. In fact, usually, I know it's more Dante's forte, but when the brothers get cocky, they tend to let themselves get hit at least once to show how much more badass they are than the guy they're going up against. And all it's going to take is Radahn giving Virgil a bear hug and Miquella whispering sweet, sweet nothings into his ears for Virgil to fall under sway and now become Miquella's mind puppet. If Virgil can stay focused and make sure that he doesn't get attacked, hit, or anything like that, I can see him at least taking Radahn out, and if he could take Radahn out, he has no issue with anything. Radahn's his ultimate challenge. Radahn is the ultimate challenge, and Virgil probably has the strength and speed to take him out, especially in Devil Trigger mode. Just had to be a Debbie Downer and point out the small ability for Miquella to probably mind control him, because Miquella's mind control has been able to take over an entire realm of existence at this point. But with Virgil's entire personality change that he got at the end of Devil May Cry 5, this changes the entire story of what would happen. It's a bit of a cop-out, but Virgil has a sword that literally cuts through space and time. He would probably just look around, go, I'm not in Kansas anymore. Turn himself around, open up a freaking portal, and just teleport his ass back to wherever he came from. Because remember, at the end of Devil May Cry 5, he set out with Dante to stop the invasion of demons on Earth. To protect his son, who again, he ripped his goddamn arm off because it was his sword. So yes, Virgil could definitely make it in the Lands Between. I don't see him surviving there. His whole thing would be getting home in order to protect those that he cares about. And if killing everyone in the Lands Between is how he does it, that's how he does it. If he can open up a gate that just takes him home, I mean, that's probably what he would end up doing in the long run. So with Virgil being down, we enter into our lovely territory of probably the strongest people on my list. And first up is the Dovahkiin from Skyrim. The Dragonborn, the mortal born with the ability to eat the souls of other dragons. Since we're throwing him in at the end of his story like we've done with everyone else on this list, that means he's already devoured the soul of Alduin, the dragon meant to eat all of space and time. He's also been to Morrowind where he took on Miraak and has possibly been enslaved by Hormaeus Mora, but that's left up to the air. With that, we get around to thinking, this guy's taking on a dragon that's gonna eat space and time. He's also fucking taking out the first of all the Dragonborn. What can he do? What are his power? Well, he's also mantling a god, and if you don't know what mantling means, that basically means you are becoming that god. The particular god he is becoming is Talos. Talos happens to be the only true human god. He is the hero god of the Empire. Dragonborn can cast a myriad of spells, anything from fireballs to conjuring demons to even healing himself. He is completely proficient in any weapon or armor that he picks up. He can put it on and he can further enhance it through either enchanting or by smithing it up even further. And we cannot forget the one thing that the Dragonborn is most famous for, and that's being able to argue with power. The Thume, the voice, the shout, whatever you want to call it, gives him the ability to do a bunch of magical effects, such as call down giant lightning storms, enhances already formidable armor and strength, make himself dash as fast as Virgil can run, and he can also stop time. So how will the embodiment of Talos handle the Lands Between? Well, I've gone into full detail about a lot of these guys, but I mean, the Dragonborn is just in a category above everyone else on this list. He has such a variety of powers, and unlike the Tarnished, he doesn't have to just equip a handful of them or have spell slots. He literally can just go lightning bolt, fireball, death bomb, whatever the hell he wants to do. If he's having any issue with any boss, he can quite literally open up his inventory, which canonically in the Skyrim universe does stop time. So he can just open up his inventory, eat a bunch of snack cakes, and unpause time and kick the crap out of whatever he's fighting. He also has another ability to freeze time with one of his shouts, like I said earlier. Malenia being probably the second hardest, maybe the first hardest, depending on who you ask boss in the game. She would go up into waterfall dance, he would hit her with his time freeze shout, and shoot her 6 times in the face with a bow, knocking her on her butt. She wouldn't stand a chance against him. That Radahn with his meteors giving you issues? Well, no, I'm not standing where the meteor was going to land. What I'm saying is that the Dragonborn is a bit cheap and overpowered for the Lands Between. I don't really know what world I would stick him in where it would be a fair fight other than maybe a JRPG world. As for Virgil's weakness with being mind controlled, the Dragonborn has been shown to resist similar effects in the past. I never even mentioned the fact that he could either go vampire or werewolf form, which can massively increase his strength and speed even more than what he already has. I figured with just the basic stuff that I mentioned, it should be pretty obvious that he can take out the Lands Between. If you disagree, let me know in the comments section below, and while you're there, just go ahead and throw a like and a subscribe on the channel so you can see when I come out with more videos, either like this or, you know, more on just Elden Ring. Oh, you thought I was done with the Dragonborn? I would have been, but there was this small little thing I mentioned earlier. You remember how the Dragonborn can eat the souls of the dragons that he kills? Well, the dragons in Elden Ring are pretty much identical to those in the Elder Scrolls games, so I'm guessing he could probably devour their souls and get even more powerful. Yay, more power. So with the Dovahkiin being handled and pretty much being agreed upon, by me at least, that he can take out the lands between, who is the last guy on our list? Well, you saw the thumbnail, so you know who was in the list. The last guy on my list is the fairy boy himself, Link from The Legend of Zelda. Link, the hero of time, the hero of legends, the hero of Twilight, the hero of the kingdom. He goes by many names, but you know, every single one of them is literally just a link in his power levels. Well, I know I called him a fairy boy when I introduced him, but you know, in this particular one, we're going to be using the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom version of Link, so he doesn't have his patent fairy followers. But don't worry, I'm still going to say, hey, listen! So what does this particular Link have? Well, him, like all Links before him, have all of the knowledge of all of the Links, well, before him. So he is a master swordsman. He can also use certain types of magic, a bow. If he had it in the game, he'd have a slingshot, but he has a nifty tablet. And like all the tablet babies of this modern age, he can do a lot of weird things with the tablet. These things include stuff like creating bombs, creating stasis fields, picking magnetic objects up, and crafting giant Pokemon style things that can destroy his enemies with. Hell, I've seen people create perpetual motion machines in the damn Tears of the Kingdom game. With the Master Sword, he's powered by the goddess Hylia, and with his Triforce of Courage, he is powered by one of the 3 primordial gods that created all of Hyrule. This series of men in tights have managed to beat not only the great evils of their world, but they've beaten dragons, giant fish, massive octopus, and demons that can create their own realities. But there's still one foe that Link, in all of his power, cannot defeat, and that is the mighty chicken. If for some reason, while the hero of time, the hero of legend, or, you know, any of the other heroes decide to slap a chicken 3 times, the mobs appear and wipe you out faster than anything in the game can. Hyrulean shield, which is said to be indestructible, cannot save you from this flock of angry poultry. However, he is also able to breed these chickens, and you know what that means. He can bring them to battle with him. Oh, and don't gloss over the fact that I said that the Hyrulean shield is said to be indestructible. It's literally part of the lore that the Hyrulean shields are meant to defend the Hyrulean defenders, and well, that makes them indestructible. On top of that, you have got the Master Sword, which gets powered up more and more the further the game goes along, and at the end of it is the true bane of evil's might. Other than that, he's got his standard kit of defensive spells, fire arrows, light arrows, ice arrows, and, you know, the works. His sick new arm allows him to do some other things, and that's what he really uses to construct his little toys with. So, with all that being said, how does this particular version of the tights-wearing man actually survive in the lands between? Well, between Link's weapon skills, the spells, and all that good stuff, he's already more diverse than any of the Tarnished could hope to be. You know, you gotta specialize in one thing or another, and even when you max out all your stats as a Tarnished, you still, while can be a jack-of-all-trades character, you still either hit really hard with your because of how your talisman placement is. So I can see Link easily making it through. This particular version of Link is also like the Dovahkiin, and he can put on other gear if it actually makes him better in combat. So I can see him putting on some talismans to maybe power himself up. I don't see him really changing out of his armor due to the fact that his armor powers up his very specific abilities, unlike the armor in the lands between. His constructs he could use to steamroll some of the easier enemies and even a couple of the bosses probably, much like the spirit summons can be used by the Tarnished. His strength of will and his character alone would probably stop him from Miquella's mind control, and while he's fast, I don't see him being as fast as someone like Virgil, or even technically the Dovahkiin with his ability to stop time. Now I'm going to say this here, and it's probably going to piss a lot of you off. Recently I saw a video where somebody compared Link to a universal or multi-universal character, and said that he is also this because he defeated the demon Majora. And because Majora can create a pocket dimension, this apparently makes Link at least universal. No, just because you can destroy the thing that creates a dimension or holds a dimension together does not mean you yourself are a dimensional being. Just because, say in D&D, you have 4 crystals that hold your pocket dimension together. If someone walks around and smashes those crystals, they are now not universally strong. Link is very fast, very skilled, and very strong, but he is not universal, nor is he multi-universal. For those of you who are coming here and wanting to see me wank him, I'm not a power scaler, so that is not going to work on this channel. If you don't like it, argue with me in the comment section down below. However, between everything that Link does bring to the table, he doesn't need this particular type of power in order to win. He has the ability already to freeze time if he whips out a tablet. If he has his ice arrows, he can freeze people in place. Frost is a thing that exists in the lands between. However, it doesn't exist to the power level that it does in other games like with Link, where it freezes people solid. He has the skill and strength in order to take out most of the heavy hitters, so let's just take him up to the top 2 dogs in the game. Malenia's speed might give him a little bit of pause. However, again, he could freeze her in place like the Dovahkiin does. He can also summon massive constructs that would be hard for her to take down. With Malenia's ability to cause chip damage even through shields, he might have a little bit of a hard time, but his shield is indestructible, so this may stop her chip damage. He doesn't have the ability to cause bleed, which is one of her weaknesses, but I think through time, and the fact that even if he messes up, he's got his fairies, along with a lot of his other various abilities that he can use, I do see him taking down Malenia. But then we have Radahn. Between Radahn's power and his aggression, he easily have the upper hand early in most fights. But with Link being able to, block and freaking counter the way Link would normally fight, because he is a sword and board user primarily, I can see him chipping down on Radahn. The thing about Radahn is, usually the best way to beat him is with a sword and board nowadays anyway. I mean, they did nerf the shit out of him, but I'm talking OG Radahn, not modern interpretation pussy Radahn. Main problem that Link would possibly have with Radahn is the fact that he comes down in a holy nuke. Wait, I said holy nuke. Link's sword can absorb holy magic, well, at least light magic. Does that mean he can absorb Radahn's holy blasts? If that's a possibility, then Link would be able to power his sword up even more to take on Radahn, giving him even more of an edge. His fairies would help him resurrect if any issues happen. His ability to resist mind controlling effects would help him against Miquella, so if he even gets hugged by Radahn, he don't have to worry about that too much. And I mean, don't forget, Link has the chickens, and all he has to do is one of those things drop in front of Radahn while he's doing his power attacks, and 1, 2, 3, now KFC's after your ass, and you'll soon replace the bucket of fried chicken. All bits inside. Well, with everything I've said about Link, I do think he could take the lands between. It would be a tight fight at the end. Between his versatility and his chickens, though, I think he's got it in the bag. Well guys, that's been the video. If you have any other swordsmen you'd like to see me try to do with this challenge, or if you'd like me to go into extreme detail on a single swordsman, magic user, or anything of the sorts, let me know in the comments section down below. I'll get back to you, and I do respond to every comment that's put into my comment sections right now, so don't forget to put a like on the video and subscribe so you can see when we go live next time. I would like to thank my members on screen now. And with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful time, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.